Everybody, here's the latest update on the video for the series for the Jeep. Currently working on the wiring. Again, it's been about 6 weeks since I uploaded a video, so this is going to be a kind of a compilation of all the stuff I've worked on since the last video to date. Enjoy. So I'm out here working on the Jeep again. It's been a few weeks, gotten a few things done, nothing major, but decided I'm going to go ahead and deal with this leaky transfer case that's on here. Not really exciting stuff, but needed to be done. So I got lucky on my the drum for the emergency brake that's on the transfer case. It didn't even have to be pulled. It was so greasy and nasty that it just kind of slipped right off as soon as I took the 1.25 inch nut off that holds it in place. This is the yoke for the front transfer case output shaft. So we're gonna clean all this stuff up and inspect it today and see if I need to buy new yokes. If there is if there's any kind of wear on those yokes where it was riding on the seals, we're gonna have to replace those yokes. They're not super expensive, but I was hoping to not have to do it. So we'll see on inspection. It's hard to see in the light, but I pulled this as the front. You can see it's pretty nasty. I'm gonna have to clean all that up. And then I've got a seal puller that I purchased, so I'm gonna pull the seal. Now, I don't have seals for both the front and the back of the transfer case yet. I've got to order a front seal. I only ordered a rear before. I have the seal for the front Dana 25 yoke, which I'm gonna plan to do again. Excuse me. I wasn't going to record this because it's a greasy, nasty mess and it's awkward being on the floor. But you can see how bad this emergency brake system is on the back of this transfer case. It is caked with decades of oil leak, mud, all kinds of stuff. It's just terrible. And I noticed that it was so bad that the lining of the excuse me, emergency brake shoes is actually starting to come apart. And the one up top is completely gone. So we're gonna pull this backer plate off and I'm gonna clean everything up and probably order all brand new stuff. Certainly needs new shoes. We're gonna have to put a new seal in the back of the transfer case. The springs and stuff may be salvageable, but they're super cheap. So we'll probably just buy, all new stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and take this all off. Get it cleaned up, and I'll show you what it looks like after I get it degreased and taken apart. These are 9/16 bolts that hold this backer plate in. I've seen videos online where these are safety wired in place on the transfer case. Apparently that's only a thing for the MB. The M38, mine did not have that, so we'll just have to put some Loctite on there and torque it down to spec when we get everything back together. I did have to pull both front and rear drive shafts to do this. Those are 1/2 inch bolts, or excuse me, 1/2 inch nuts that hold those in place with little U-bolts. And I am going to pull that yoke today as well. And I've got the seal for that. It is leaking here at the bottom of the pumpkin. You can see with my finger right there. So the oil level in this, I changed the fluid out of it, the gear oil, and it started leaking when it was at the specified level, right? So that means the seal is toasted in the back. It leaked down to the point where so much of it leaked out that it stopped leaking out of the back. So I've got oil in there still, but we're gonna have to add some to it. We're gonna go ahead and put that seal in today, and I'll show that process as well. So currently I'm working on getting this out. I've got one more bolt to get out. You can see right up here. And then this whole piece should just pop right off, and we'll get it out in the sunlight and take a look at it. We're gonna inspect our drum as well, and we'll take a look at that. All right, so we've cleaned up the brake drum, the yokes, and the yokes look good. There's no significant pitting to the point where there's an edge, a defining edge on there that would prevent us from using these. So I'm not going to order new ones. I'm going to reuse the old yokes. The backer plate, I was able to get that off and get it cleaned up. We are going to have to buy some new springs, new shoes, and some new components to go on this. And I'm going to see if they sell one. If it's about the same price point just to buy a preloaded disc or backer plate, I'm going to go that route, but we'll find out. Got to do some more research. So right now I'm going to go ahead and pull the front yoke off of that Dana 25. You can kind of see it in a bad angle, but I'm going to pull that loose, and we're going to pull that seal out and replace it. Got to find the seal. I think I got it right here. This is the seal that goes back in place behind there. So I've got to pull the old one out and reinstall it. All right, so I've got my new brake shoes installed, new springs, everything's hooked up. I also got a new seal put into the rear shaft, output shaft. I've already done the front one as well, and it was a pain to get those old seals out. That's the back one. The one in the front got absolutely mangled pulling it out, but it did come out with some brute force. So we're gonna go ahead and excuse me, put our drum back on here, and then go ahead and install our new e-brake cable, which I ordered as well. So this old one is seized up, so we're gonna have to take that out and hook up a new one to the dashboard. All right, we've got our brakes put back together. We've got our new e-brake cable installed. E-brake works. Now, I think I did over torque or misadjust the e-brake cable a little bit, because you pull this thing up, really only get about 2 1/4, maybe 2.5 inches of pull out of this, but it does work. It locks the brakes. Now I'm totally fine with that. So we'll go with that, and if we need to adjust it later, if it stretches, that's fine too. So right now I'm working on getting these blocks properly drilled for installation of these aftermarket wiper motors. I would like to get these mounted today and get the wiper arms mounted up on the front. So what I'm going to do is I basically took the block, I mounted everything up in our center hole, and then centered it height-wise and directionally, which, you know, so it was level, and then came through with a drill bit that fit exactly into this hole and drilled it. And so I know where my pilot holes need to be, and then I'm going to put that same drill bit in the drill press, and we're going to go ahead and drill these holes all the way through. And then I'm going to take this block with me up to the hardware store and grab some screws that will fit all the way through here. May have to cut them just a little bit, but we'll measure it and see if we can get it close. Yeah, pretty good with the transfer case and all that too. No, I checked it, it's not leaking, which is good. So we did the front Dana 25 pinion seal, and then both the output shaft seals on the transfer case, which is cool. So that's done. So we're gonna work on this next. And then I may try to start working on getting the seat frames and those new seats put on today as well. I've got a little bit of time this afternoon. So if that's the case, we'll be taking this piece of wood and cutting out the seat bottoms and then screwing them to the frames, and then affixing the seats to it. So we may try to do that today if we have time. So we're gonna put these on the drill press and get these drilled and get them mounted up. Okay, let me show you how I went ahead about measuring these holes. So here's the drill bit that I used for those holes. What I did was I mounted the main shaft of this thing back up. I just shoved the drill bit through the hole that we just drilled until it stuck out the front of this hole here, this mounting hole, just maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, not even. And then I took a piece of tape and came back off of where the drill bit came out about another, I can't do it with one hand, but about another 1/8 of an inch. So we're gonna have to find bolts that are roughly the shank from the tape to the tip of this in length. If I can get the camera to focus. So that's what we're gonna look for. I tried to account for the head of the bolt and then also a nut to go on the back side and possibly a washer. So we may go a little bit bigger than this, just a tiny bit longer, but that should be what we need. So we'll take this to the hardware store with us, and we're gonna get some bolts for mounting the seat frames to the floors as well. And then when we get back, we'll put some screws together through this, mount these up on both sides, and then we'll get started on the seats. All right, so we got our wipers installed. I am gonna probably have to adjust these once I get them running. I think the one on the driver's side is a little too long. They do have adjustments that I can make on them, on the arms themselves. You can see we got these permanently affixed. Probably gonna later on come through here and cut this extra shank off the bolts. But for now, I wanna, that's a later date task. I wanna get the seats and the wiring done before we do anything else as far as final touch-up work on some of the systems on the Jeep. So some of you may notice I also got this installed. I went ahead and just test fitted it up here. It works good. This is the switch I was telling you in the previous videos. But once we get to the wiring section, I'm gonna probably get some sheathing and run it down this column and through into the dash. So, but it looks good, very solid stuff. But there you go. All right, here is a update on some additional stuff I'm working on. I went ahead and started wiring up the electrical harness. It works really well. The headlamps are working, the parking lamps are working. What I did was I ended up mounting up the junction box with all my flashers and relays over on this right fender. I had to wire in a 40 amp breaker fuse for the battery. Now this is obviously not my final wiring. I'm going to come through and wrap all this stuff up, but basically I'm starting the loom, circling back, and we'll get it sheathed up with some tape and covering. We're going to run the wiring down the fender. It's going to run up here as well. We're going to tuck it back where the original harness went into these clips on both sides here. I've still got to heat shrink the rest of these connections for the park lamps. I did get my horn mounted up. It tested, it works. I've got to get the ground rigged up for it, but we're going to run our wiring across. We got all our headlamps hooked up and all our final wiring. We just got to go through and sheath it, tape it, and put it in its final spots. But the front end wiring is done. So as you can see, the headlamps are on. I just have the switch. Turn the headlamps off so I'm not blinding everybody. But as you can see, signal indicators are working. And they're a little bit dim right now when you have the headlamps on, but they are still working. I apologize for that. Now at night you'll definitely be able to see that. It's daylight. I got fluorescent lights in the garage, so it makes it a little difficult. So we'll turn this off. So what we have left now as far as wiring is today I'm going to go ahead and get the bulbs. These housings that I bought, we talked about in the previous video, came with 24 volt bulbs. I need single filament, 12 volt. I believe it's 1156. I'll have to double check the number. The bulb that I need, I'm going to need 3 of those. One's going to be a dedicated parking lamp. One's going to be a brake lamp. And the other's going to be a turn signal lamp. So I'm going to run all that wiring across the passenger side frame rail, since that's where the side the box is on, instead of having to lose wire and chase it through this direction. And then we'll splice it across the back from that lamp to this one. And that should be it for that portion of the wiring. I am going to have to still wire up the few things that I need for my gauges to work. Backlighting, which there's a wiring in that loom for that. I'll have to double check. I don't know if these gauges came with the window style ones or if they have individual wiring. I'll have to go back and look. If they're individually wired, then I'm going to individually wire up so they have the lighting in the gauge itself. I've still got to come through and wire up my key switch accessories. All that's got to be wired up, and I've still got to wire up the electric wipers as well. Once that's all said and done, I've already started putting together a list of fuel tank items. So we're going to line the fuel tank, the straps. I've got to actually get my buddy to weld the bracket back in here for the where the strap holds the tank down. So all that stuff's going to be ordered here really soon. The wiring will be finished before we get to that point. But that's where we're at with it. So I'm pretty excited about this. But it only took me, maybe an hour and a half last night. And then I was out here for the last hour or so wiring all this stuff in. So the whole front end I did in probably 2 hours. Over here is the rear lamp wiring. So we're going to sometime, maybe today, possibly take that apart, run it, affix it to where it needs to be on the frame rail, and then start working on getting those. I've got to get the bulbs in the back, and I've got to test which one of the wires excuse me, is associated with which bulb, so we can correctly hook those up. All right, here's more information on what I've done with the Jeep. Kind of piecemealing these videos together. I think I already showed this before, but we've got the wipers installed with our brackets that were built in the 3D printer. I've gone ahead and started the process of installing my new speedo cable. I went ahead and hooked up the temperature gauge back to the engine as well. So that's just a manual one with no sending unit. Still working on the wiring. The front end wiring is pretty much done. These are dash wires, which we're not going to use because none of my gauges are backlit. So we'll have to just secure those away somewhere here in the engine compartment. I've mounted up my fuse block on my passenger side fender. We went ahead and mounted the horn up, tested it, it does work. And I've gone ahead and tried to clean up all this wiring that's in here. This is all the new wiring, and get it mounted up back in its original spots. I've still got some work to do on that. On the front end, I'm gonna take a bus bar and stick a bus bar over here adjacent to the battery, run a single cable off of it, and then run all my individual hard powered components that have to be basically have 12-volt power all the time off of that bus bar. So that would include the hazards, the brake light, the wipers, and I'm missing one more, but there'll be about 4 or 5 of them that I'll hook up on that bus bar. And I'll have to attach the power that comes off of the fuse block to the bus bar as well. So I bought some wire yesterday to rig that up. We're gonna get that done. So again, this is gonna disappear. I've got some stuff up here I've got to pull out. These are old cables that don't, they're not gonna be in use anymore, so I'm gonna remove those. I've gone ahead and also started the process of testing the wiring for, there's 3 wires back here. Each one's gonna be independent of basically what circuit it runs. So there's 3 bulbs. I swapped out the 12-volt bulbs for, 24-volt bulbs for 12-volt rear bulbs. These are 1156 bulbs. They're single filament bulbs. So I've got 1, 2, 3 spots to fill. One of them is going to be a brake light bulb, one will be a turn signal bulb, and the other will be a running light bulb. So I went ahead and figured out which of these wires is corresponding to each one of those plugs in the housing. I went ahead and labeled 2 of them. So sometime in the next week or so, I'm gonna go ahead and run my wires to the back and rig up all the rear wiring. All of that wiring is down in there. So it's kind of a mess. So I've got to get in here. That's just a rat's nest of wiring. I've got to get that all cleaned up and taped up so it looks clean. I went ahead and installed the air hose for the air bypass to the air box. I'm gonna have to get some wire loop hose clamps to go here, 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 and here. So I need about 5 of them. And then we're gonna keep working on the wiring, get this all rigged up and done. I've still got to wire these windshield wipers up as well. So that's where we're at with things. That's the latest update on the Jeep. It's coming along, but it's very, very slow. So I've been kind of just working here and there on it over the last month or so when I've got time available. So I appreciate everybody who watches the videos. If you have any questions or comments, anything like that, let me know. And I'll try to get another video out here when I do the seats here. That's definitely the next thing on my list. The seats are driving me nuts. I want to get these things built. They're in that box right there. It's one of those things that's just like, I want to get those done. I think that'll be a milestone on this project is when we get the seats in. So appreciate you watching. Appreciate everybody watching the video. Those that subscribe and have been following it from the beginning, I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and end the video for now, and then I'll get another update when I get the wiring finished for the rear. And then when we order the tank stuff, whenever that stuff arrives, I'll go through those parts before we get them installed. But I appreciate those who are watching. If you have any comments or questions, put them at the bottom. I'll be happy to help you out. Appreciate your time.